Hi Archers! ARCHERO is slowly rolling out the update, which includes 37 reworked abilities. In this video, I'll be comparing and discussing the old abilities and how they've changed, if they're better and how you should use them. My name is Teeds. If you're new here, feel free to subscribe and click the bell for more videos. A disclaimer, this is based on my research and some research from the ARCHERO community. I've been spending the past few days trying to find all of the changed abilities. I've recorded all my numbers and calculated the differences to give you the most accurate information. I'll be comparing the new stats to the old stats from the ARCHERO fandom ran wiki, and for any abilities that I could not find, I'll be cross-referencing to the ARCHERO community-driven research. Please do note that the ARCHERO community-driven research is also not 100% accurate, as every single player has access to these notes and can edit it. The information in this video, if not completely accurate, is the most accurate as possible. Since ARCHERO does not share its changes or stats, we have to try our best to figure it out ourselves. All reference links will be in the description box below. Alright, let's get into it. First, let's talk about the biggest changes. Smart. Smart was one of the most useless abilities in the game. The old Smart increased your XP gain for your run, which means you would have been able to level up and get new abilities faster. However, it was confirmed not long ago that this wasn't working. When they did fix it and apparently reworked it to make it better, it still wasn't good enough. Now with the new Smart, you'll get 2 more abilities and gain XP faster. This means you'll max out at level 12 instead of level 10. Is this good? Yes, it is a lot better. I tested this many times and I do find that I actually level up faster, but I couldn't notice it by eye. A player has claimed that you gain 30% more XP. While it does say you get 2 extra abilities, essentially you just kind of get 1 extra ability because you use 1 ability slot on Smart. This is still good though. This makes Smart a lot better than before. I suggest picking up Smart if your other 2 ability choices are kind of meh. Not great and you want to risk it for something better. Smart basically gives you another chance to get a high tier ability. Next we have Strong Heart. Strong Heart is a lot better now too. I didn't really feel the difference, but I could have just been unlucky. Strong Heart used to just increase the heal percentage you get from red hearts that drop from enemies. Now, Strong Heart also increases the drop rate of heals from enemies. The old Strong Heart only increased heal by red hearts for 20%. With the new Strong Heart, ARCHERO community has recorded that the Strong Heart has 40% more red hearts spawned, and you'll be healed by the hearts for 40%. This is a 20% difference, and you also gain an increased chance of red hearts dropping. In my opinion, this is a great change. They made it a lot better and worth picking up. Next is Summon One-Eyed Bat and Shadow Clone. These 2 abilities were actually decent. Not the best, but it was nice when you had an army of clones. Back then, I recommended not picking up both of these together because they clashed. The old One-Eyed Bat and old Shadow Clone had a chance to spawn on enemy death. Because of this, it was also useless against bosses. Now it has changed, and in my opinion, for the better. Both abilities now spawn without having to kill an enemy. This means that you can use them together, and it also means it works in boss rooms as well. ARCHERO community has recorded that it is a 15% chance of spawning a clone, 1 max per enemy, 3 max per boss, and up to 15 clones at once. Each clone lasts for 8 seconds, dealing 100% of the player base damage. It seems to trigger while hitting enemies. Next, we have Giant and Dwarf. These 2 abilities were not mentioned by ARCHERO, but the ARCHERO community has found changes. The old Giant only increased your damage by 40%. The new Giant now has an additional reduced hitbox from 20% to 10%, so you are now smaller than before than the old Giant, and your max HP is increased by 5%. The old Dwarf makes you smaller and increases your crit rate by 10%. The new Dwarf now makes you even smaller, from 20% to 15% decrease in size. These are great buffs to 2 strong abilities. This makes Giant more viable than before to pick up, especially with the additional health and decrease in size, and Dwarf was always viable, they just made a strong ability even stronger. The rest of the changes are spirit and elemental changes, but they're actually a lot better. Just so I do not have to say this for every part, Blaze/Fire leaves a ticking fire damage to the enemy that can be refreshed. Frost/Freeze freezes the enemy, and now all freeze abilities deal small frost damage. Bolt and Lightning abilities now deal initial lightning damage and will jump from enemy to enemy similar to Ricochet. Toxic/Poison abilities deal poison tick damage and will stay on the enemy until death. I first want to talk about the star abilities because there is something really amazing about these abilities. We have Bolt Star, Blazing Star, Toxic Star, and Frost Star. Star has already had a change and now they've changed it again. The first star was rather annoying. It was distracting and hard to see, and randomly was thrown around on the screen in 4 directions. Then they changed it after complaints. It was better. It now targeted the enemy you were fighting, and it was a little spread out and crashed into the ground within a small area. It made it better for boss fights and gathered enemies, but it still was not viable enough, and it was still kind of distracting. Now the change is much better, and it comes with a little surprise. The old star abilities dealt 200% of your current damage. The new star abilities damage is a lot less now. It is now 90% of your current damage. While this damage change is a lot, the improvements make it much more viable. While I was testing this ability from my eye, it seems that the ability is now much more accurate in hitting enemies. I found it less distracting as well. The projectile seems to be faster as well, but the huge thing with the star abilities is that it synergizes with Ricochet, and I found it to be very powerful. You can now combo your star abilities with Ricochet, and this causes the star abilities to bounce between targets. Just watch this footage. Without doing the numbers and just from the few runs that I've tested, take this with a grain of salt, but in my opinion right now, star abilities paired up with Ricochet brings it to a much higher tier. I love that ARCHERO is now letting us combo even more abilities together, and I found this combo to be so fun and so powerful. Next, the arrow abilities. We have Poison Touch, Freeze, Bolt, Blaze, Holy Touch, and Dark Touch. Poison Touch from 30% to 12% on the first tick, and then 35% ongoing. This also applies to all poison-related abilities. Bolt from 25% to 30% on initial target, and 25% on nearby targets. Bolt now deals initial damage of 25% if there are no targets nearby. This applies to all Bolt-related abilities. Freeze apparently froze targets for 2 seconds according to the ARCHERO wiki, however I debunked this a while ago. I don't remember what it was, but from my research it is now less than half a second freeze, and freeze now deals damage of 10% and can scale. This applies to all freeze-related abilities, but with each freeze ability has a varying freeze time. Blaze from 15% equipment damage to 18% applies to all Blaze-related abilities, and amounts of ticks vary. Holy Touch from 60% current damage to 70%. Dark Touch stayed the same with 90% damage, and I didn't find or have a direct comparison to confirm this, but a player from ARCHERO community has claimed it now has a wider range and chains, meaning a chance to explode again on those hit by the explosion. Next, the METEOR abilities. Just like the star abilities, the METEOR abilities also went through a couple changes. The first METEOR abilities just randomly were thrown on the map. It was very confusing and distracting. Then they changed it, and now it attacks the enemy you're targeting. The change was better. I still found it distracting though. They have now changed it again, and I find it to be a lot better. But is it viable? I can't say for sure yet, but I found it to be less distracting. The old METEOR abilities dealt 200% of your current damage. The new METEOR abilities from my testing showed that the METEOR abilities damage was all over the place. Bolt Meteor and Frost Meteor dealt around 220%. I couldn't get the Toxic Meteor's impact damage, and the Blazing Meteor's impact damage was around 205%. All meteors had partial damage to targets outside the direct impact of 75%. I have no idea why it was different. I double checked by running again when the numbers are not matching, but I have no explanation for this. ARCHERO community has recorded 210% damage for all meteors and 80% for partial hits. I got different results. From the old meteor, there is a damage increase. I also found that the meteors fall to the ground much faster, making it less distracting. Next, we have the strike abilities. From the old strikes, the damage of the strike hit was 150% of your current damage. The new strikes have a damage increase of 165% of your current damage. Toxic Strike was the only one that had different numbers. Toxic Strike deals more than the other strikes of 168%. This was tested in 2 different runs just so I could make sure again. Again, no idea why the numbers here is different from the others, but this is actually very consistent with the toxic abilities. Apart from the damage increase, there is a dramatic increase with the attack speed. The sword strikes are a lot faster than the old sword strikes. Someone from the community claimed that the faster the attack speed, the shorter the summoning time. Take with a grain of salt again. Next, we have sword abilities. The old swords dealt 100% of your current damage. The new swords now deal 131% of your current damage, except for the toxic swords, which deals 134% of your current damage. Another ARCHERO from the ARCHERO community has claimed that the attack speed can make your swords spin faster. Next, we have the circle abilities. The old circle abilities dealt 75% of your current damage. The new circle abilities deal 85% of your current damage, except again for Toxic. Toxic deals very slightly more. Another player claims that the attack speed can make the balls spin faster. If the attack speed claim is true, that's also a really nice thing to have because that means even more combos you can put together. Lastly, we have Spirit Multi-Shot and Spirit Front Arrow. The description within the game is misleading. With Spirit Multi-Shot, spirits can receive a maximum of 95% in boost, and the pet's crit rate can reach a maximum of 30%. With Spirit Front Arrow, this scales with the hero's attack and crit damage. Pet attack damage can reach a maximum of 80%, and pet's crit damage can reach 200%. Spirit Elemental abilities buff the hero differently now. Pet Blaze increased hero's damage from 10%, changed to now 22%, that is a 12% damage increase. Spirit Freeze increased hero's crit damage by 20%, changed to 18% attack speed increase. Spirit Poison increased hero's crit damage by 20%, changed to 15% HP boost. Spirit Bolt increased hero's crit chance by 5%, changed to 15% crit damage and plus 3% crit chance. Overall, I'm actually very happy with these changes. The ability changes are actually very significant. I don't have any complaints yet. I mean, time will tell as we test them more and more. I'm not sure how viable each one is, but there are some clear changes which make an ability more viable. I will be making an updated ability tier list in the near future and also discuss the hero changes. I thank you very much for watching. Comment down below which change you liked the best and if you're happy with it. Like the video if you're happy with the changes. Subscribe and click the bell for more Archero videos. I hope to see you again for the next one. Bye!